with automation, the strength of it is to take away the meaningless work and shift that to a robot.
Any initiative you're going to be carrying out needs support from these people.
If you are a company with a lot of data, you're going to need a model built around that to pull the information out of it.
The content is actually making 7% of the impact in a sentence, for example. Yeah. The tonality, yeah, that's right. Or yeah, that's right.
You have a conversation and you realize something in a conversation, you'd be like, no, well, yeah, that's a whole sentence. And the microseconds in between of reactions for us, we understand that. What's implied? What are the different feelings? And what are the different meanings of all these things?
What do you think are going to be the next steps related to AI in CX?
The technology is working as designed, but the experience it wasn't designed very well.
Welcome to the second episode of the Naked Customer podcast, where we dive deep into the realm of customer experience and try to go through trends, understand what's happened in the world of customer experience, whether locally here in the region, in the United Arab Emirates, in the Middle East, or globally. I'm Aslan Patov, and today with me, co-hosting this episode is JD Ackley, CEO of Raizor AI. JD, how did you end up here in Dubai?
Wow, Aslan, thanks for having me today. It's been a whirlwind tour, growing and spending time in the States. It's a unique market and very different from where I come from. Working with a partner in the customer experience space brought me to the Emirates about 2.5 years ago now. So coming in with a partner and with an opportunity here to grow in the Emirates.
Very interesting. And that was a couple of years back, but quite recently you started focusing a lot on the AI side of things when it comes to CX, right? That's how Raizor AI came to be.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about what you do?
So yeah, it has been quite recent as the rise of AI. I mean, with the dawn of machine learning evolving into the mainstream now with ChatGPT in the past really 16, 18 months. So my career started in customer experience when we talk about the contact center side of things. So I've been with that technology for almost 25 years now. Working with the different contact center technologies for customer experience, for inbound and outbound calling, and reaching customers. But that's evolved in its own in the past 4 or 5 years to be very much customer experience centric. And the AI applications for working with customers have really driven that. So the technology works really well with the chat bots and has evolved into the voice bots and able to use the AI technology to work with customers. So it was low-hanging fruit to move that, and it's a great fit for the technology to work with customer experiences.
That's the best application, I guess, to introduce the tech to the market. But as we know, there are lots of different applications. And I hear a lot from people from the industry, obviously, that the question about what can we do when it comes to AI and customer experience or customer experience with AI. But I don't think what is the right question. It's more about the when, right? And trying to find those moments where AI can be integrated. Because AI for me is not a product. I mean, it is a product on its own, and you have lots of different engines and lots of different specialist AIs. But when it comes to application of AI in customer experience, it's about those specific moments, pieces that you want to automate, probably specific processes where you want to infuse a bit of AI. Can you tell us more about this, about how do you identify these moments when AI can be used?
Yeah, the when is a very interesting part of the conversation. So the technology has been evolving naturally for years as the compute and the power has changed with what it can do and how it's evolving in the marketplace. But the when was forced upon us when the pandemic hit. And a lot of these large contact centers were closed and people were sent home. Technologists were left to figure out what to do and how to keep the lights on to continue to answer their customers' questions. Although a lot of stores were closed and the agents were all home, people scrambled to bring in these technologies that are now very prevalent, but it was really the dawn of them becoming mainstream, as well as the pandemic forced a lot of that to have happen. So we started off in a rush and maybe behind the curve with what they could do and what their capabilities were. And because of that, when they were pushed in, we feel that they weren't given the best opportunity. And from a technology perspective, a technologist might say, "Sure, it's working. It's a fine technology, and the software is doing as designed what it's supposed to do." But from a customer experience perspective, I think we've all experienced the speak to a receptionist or speak to an agent, and we've all had those moments of frustration because the experience is bad. The technology is working as designed, but the experience it wasn't designed very well. So it was very much thrust upon us with the pandemic. We all started working with them. We had a little bad taste as it started off. But right now, it's very much an educational time in the marketplace. They can do so much, and it's almost a fear of paralysis or analysis paralysis, where there's so much it can do, what direction to adopt, and really where to take it. So that's been a difficult part of the technology, is understanding what it can do and where are the ways to adopt it.
And I suppose this is what you're helping with.
That's very much what we're helping with. So with so many different fits for the technology, one thing you mentioned are a lot of the spot technologies. So I think there's been early adoption for some of these AI technologies that have resolved down to a very small use case and something that's addressable in the marketplace that they can go out and replicate. But it does one very small thing, where we look at it more holistically, like looking at a platform across the entire enterprise and how to gain data and insights out of what the business has in its business intelligence, and identify how do we look at a holistic solution to present to a customer, provide value for that, to provide the data they have as an asset and use AI to bring that to the forefront versus, a very small spot chatbot application or something of that nature.
And when it comes to the actual AI technology, are you agnostic to the tech itself? Is it more solution driven, for instance, driven by the customer experience and what it actually prescribes, whether it's a specific ritual, specific case of automation, or a process you would like to work with? How do you pick the right technology?
Well, as integrators, that's our strength, is being agnostic. So we work with all of the technologies in the top right corner of the MQ to understand what's out there and to be at the forefront of where the technology is going. But our strength as integrators is being able to be agnostic and look at the solutions to fit the need. Not saying we only sell this one tool, so it has to be sold by this one tool. So being integrators, it allows us to work with the best technologies in the marketplace and to identify which tools fit best for what needs and make those recommendations, as well as for us, our customers win because we can present several different tools for a solution, allow our customers to understand the strengths and weakness and allow them to make those decisions.
When it comes to tech integration in CX, specifically AI, there are a couple of camps, the haters that say that, this is going to ruin the CX and you're going to have lots of robotic sort of responses. And I think these people haven't grown out of the conversational AI era yet. And then you have people who absolutely adore it, especially the small and medium businesses, because it removes a lot of hassle and makes interest to the category much easier, whether it's communications, whether it's responses, working with data, making sure that they make a better use of their own databases, just quickly connecting to the chat and in the conversational mode, trying to fetch the material that they need or the content. So small and medium enterprise absolutely adore it. And we've recently seen how larger companies, quite a few of our clients, they do think or already start integrating AI across the board. Concierge services, chatbots, the easiest utilization of AI engines, I guess. Self-service applications, pretty much anything you can do on the app can be done through the chatbot as well. And a lot of use in related to employee experience and various concierge services looking inwards rather than outwards towards the customers. Yeah. What do you think are going to be the next steps related to AI in CX or CX with AI, however you put it?
Yeah, I would look at, the frictionless experience. So I think the haters going to hate, as they say, where they think there's something taking away by having the automation aspect a part of customer experience. But I think truly customers are looking to be served in the modality and how they're looking to be served, not so much what is the most overwhelming experience with so many people talking, and the Ritz-Carlton experience where they have everything has to be so white gloved. I think customers truly want to have a frictionless experience where they come to do what they need and then move along and not be burdened and have so much interaction. They're not looking for so much. I think that with automation, the strength of it is to take away the meaningless work and shift that to a robot. A lot of times the first use cases and adoption we have in the contact center space is authentication and verification. So who are you? What are you calling for? Things that a robot could easily do that doesn't change the interaction with the brand. So when we look at what we can automate, that gives us the most important part, the brand ambassadors, the human capital that are working for these companies, more time to solve customers' complex and difficult problems. That's what we need the human aspect for, is to provide true empathy, to provide real solutions and understand the complexity of that, things that an AI would easily get lost in doing. So I think there's a space to marry both of them and have the AI handling the repetitive pieces. I also think that using the tremendous power that AI brings to the, to the brands, it needs to be leveraged. I think the brand ambassadors and the people handling the front line are empowered by having this technology to have suggestions and have more than just knowledge bases and different scenarios and scripts to be able to serve their customers. I think they want to be enabled and empowered to be great customer service agents. They want to have that power. So for them to be super agents, to have all the information provided on the spot by AI, I think that's a great place that the technology has been used and is starting to see more adoption is the automation and the co-pilot aspect of it. So, be an agent on a call with the AI listening into the conversation and providing suggestions and providing real answers, not just knowledge bases and point solutions. So I think it's a great place for that technology to work with the brands to bring the best out of them, not just automate and remove people from the equation.
One of my recent projects, we had a C-level guy approaching us and being very happy about the processes we've created. And some of them did consider AI, some of them did not. But one of the questions that the person had was how it's going to impact the bottom line, basically, and whether or not he has to now get rid of his staff. Now, should people, not the decision makers, be worried for their jobs when AI initiatives are taking place? Because, in the end of the day, it's gonna any initiative you're going to be carrying out needs support from these people. And a lot of them are fearing that this is not going to fly, and they're not being very supportive. Sometimes you're facing these kind of challenges because they believe that this is going to destroy their current roster, the funding, the budgets they have for the year, and that's going to create a lot of obstacles for the management of that specific department. And I've seen that happen in a couple of companies so far. What can you tell these guys?
Yeah, I would say there's always going to be the fear aspect of it. In every step of the technological revolution, whenever there's been a new technology come out, there's always been fear and opposition for the uptake of that, from the personal computer to, any bit of automation that's come down the road. And I think that history has played out that it's always been beneficial for the business as well as for the workers, that they have a better environment and less manual and repetitive work. As I said, the intent of AI applications in customer experience are to automate out the repetitive pieces, right? So I've seen, and there's some great use cases of early adopters who've taken this technology and brought it into their customer support and sales centers, where the people that were taking the call, the people who have deep brand knowledge of what these companies do and what they offer and sell, but we're tied up in very repetitive calls in customer service and helping customers solve very meaningless problems, important to the customer, but really simple things for them to answer. And when this organization shifted to using the automation to take out some of that repetitive stuff, it freed up more time for these agents that were, extremely knowledgeable of the brand and of the company, what their products were, what their offers were. And they shifted them from just doing support and helping them with problems to being brand ambassadors and sales agents, because they understood what the company sold and what the value was. And unlike anyone else, it's really hard to hire someone who has so much brand knowledge and bringing them in. So to sum that up, I think there's always going to be fear of how the technology is going to displace workers. And there's always going to be examples of people that are overzealous and automate too far and really degrade the customer experience. But I think history will play out as it tends to, that it's going to be a boon for customers getting great service, as well as employees able to provide even better service and new opportunities within companies.
While you were talking, I was catching something here. So basically, there is a notion that AI is going to kill creativity in people. But what you're saying is that by removing those repetitive tasks from the task sheet, whatever these people are doing on a daily basis, that we take them out from their routine and letting them solve more complex, more interesting cases that are also helping them engage better with the company, understand the company culture. So that is basically, that basically means the opposite. So it means we are leaving people more space for creativity rather than taking the creativity away by utilizing the power of AI in those creative tasks. It's just the shift of the angle of creativity, I guess, rather than, so very interesting. And when it comes to creative approach, we know that, and I don't know how much requests you have from companies and businesses these days, but a lot of people are still shy of utilizing the creative side of AI.
Sure.
We do it a lot at Renaissance. We do it a lot all the time. We don't deliver AI-based work, but we, because we know that AI is there, and because we know that, it's great that we have some knowledge within the company, 2, 3, 4 professionals are aware of the case, better know the industry probably than the AI, better know the stakeholders. But AI is always useful to structure the knowledge. It's always useful to pick on things that were not included, or you might have not considered it, although you've been doing it over and over, like from one project to another, from one brand to another, from one category to another. Eventually, still sometimes miss out on different things. I'm proud of it. I think AI is here to stay, and I think that it is going to become a norm to use AI across. At some point, it will probably not be a norm not to use AI.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the creative side of application of artificial intelligence, I know that when it comes to processes and automation of processes, this is the quick win. Low-hanging fruit. But when it comes to the creative application, are you getting any type of requests to, let's say, implement AI to support employees in the company, to help them do their job better, for example? Or maybe implement AI that's going to help automatically highlight the issues that companies have in their customer journey, in processes. I don't know, working across different service blueprints maybe. I haven't seen much of that implementation yet, but I do believe that it's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love to comment on the first observation that you had just made about the creative time that is given back to the employees. What we saw at first with the adoption of this technology, where the CFOs and the business leaders looking for reduction in agent time, right, and reduction of that handle time it takes for an agent to work with a customer. And at first it started to work that way, but as we moved more workloads to the AI to answer the repetitive, very repetitive questions. What are your hours? Where's my shipment at? I need to do a return. These very simplistic things that didn't take a human touch or, knowledge of the brand and the company. At first, that's what we saw. But what we've seen, and now we've had to, proactively start to talk with our customers about, is that the handle time has started to really come up. So now these agents are working only on very complex problems. We've automated away all of the nonsense and the things that were just straightforward that we can automate and move on with. But now the agents and the brand ambassadors are very in-depth and very complex problems. So now they're spending a lot of time with the customers, but they're able to solve things on, the first call and the first interaction because they can have more time. They're not forced to jump around from call to call. So it's been, we've seen that curve change to the agents now spending more time because they're doing the more complex things and using the tools. To look at where it's going now and how these customers are driving towards using AI for the productivity side of it, it's really, I think at the end of the day, as it's maturing, the CEO of Samba Nova said the other day, if you are a company with a lot of data, you're going to need a model built around that to pull the information out of it. So we have the chat GPTs and the LLMs, the large language models in the industry where we can ask generic questions and get generic answers out of. But what we're evolving into with the technology is consuming a brand's information and all the unique and specific information, the history of all of their documents and data that they've had for the past years, the past decades, even with some of these brands, consume all of that and then have a model that is very specific and explicit with information just for that company and their brand voice. So it's not a generic ask it a question and get a generic answer. It's specific, what were our business trends for this product for the past 3 years, or what were our customers saying about this? And that's been really powerful to have deeper company insights. And that's also created another shift because what customers have realized and what's played out in the media are training all these models. Where do they get all this information? Are they consuming the New York Times? Are they consuming all these different knowledge bases out there? So customers have become savvy enough and say, if a general AI model comes in and consumes and understands how my business works, that's our secret sauce. That's what makes us us. And once the model understands that, what's preventing that to be replicated from brand to brand to brand? I mean, when you have consultants that come in there, a consultant for a particular vertical would have knowledge of how these different brands work, but to share across, but they're not uniquely helping them one way or the other. But with the models, they understand like how this retail fashion company works. Then that gets brought into the model, and then that's ubiquitous for everyone to have that information of how they are successful.
You can integrate it with metrics. You can integrate it with financial performance, and that can become an even better source of data.
It's
cross-correlating all these events in the business, and then helping other brands within the business, within the group, become better at what they're doing.
There's so much data out there and blobs and lakes that was previously inaccessible. That was even so much brands have spent so much money on consuming the easily consumable stuff, the text, the emails, the interactions with the CMSs and the websites. But now the tools are so powerful, we can start to look at years and years of call recordings and transcribing these conversations. It's eye-opening for some of these customers once we actually take call recordings that they sat on because they were a healthcare industry and they had to keep 7 years worth of recordings that they just kept in deep cold storage that they saw no value except for if there was a compliance issue, they can pull that back out and prove that they weren't at fault or didn't say the wrong things at this time. But they're sitting on just, petaflops of recorded information. Now we can consume that, very accurately transcribe that, and get the actual voice of the customer, their sentiment, what they were saying, what they were asking for, not survey-based or other ways that were, kind of subjective of what they were outputting. This is truly the voice of the customer that we can now consume with AI and get a real feel and real business actionable data out of.
Have you come across an AI that helps? I'm pretty sure you've worked in a contact center setup area before that understands the tone of voice or voices in general, the manners, ways of speaking. Because that area I think is one of those that, based on what you just said, that hasn't been developed yet to an extent. Cultural differences, ways of speaking, and emotions was not the strongest side of AI.
So, and that's a differentiator for us as Raizor, that we come to AI with a customer experience background. So that's really our focus, is understanding these pieces. One part that we put a lot of effort in understanding is the voice aspect of it. There are many models and tools out there that have generic voice understanding and generic transcription. There's the Googles and Amazons and OpenAI's Whisper for understanding these languages. But there are much better models out there, people that focus on some of these natural language understanding, the automatic speech recognition tools out there. So we've made it a point. We know that all the AI is only going to be as good as understanding what was said when we're having a voice interaction. So we've worked and specialized with understanding how do we bring the best voice to the AI to get the best outcomes. You really need to have that aspect of it. So we've worked with that. And there's a whole discipline of conversational designers and linguists and computational linguists. I mean, a whole rabbit hole that I've started to go down and understand, and working with these teams of people that can understand tonality and the different sentiments, because people take for granted that voice and having a conversation is so simplistic. They get mad at the robot. Why don't you understand me? But when you have a conversation, you realize something in a conversation, you'd be like, no, well, yeah, that's a whole sentence. And the microseconds in between of reactions for us, even just voice without being able to see each other, we understand that. What's implied? What are the different feelings? And what are the different meanings of all these things? So, yes, we've worked with a lot of these to understand them. And it's getting better because we're starting to have more powerful engines to understand all this. There's so much complexity in a conversation that we take naturally that even a baby could speak. But it's certainly something that is coming to the light, and I think is getting better right now with that.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, because, in the end of the day, I don't remember what was the scale, but the content is actually making 7% of the impact in a sentence, for example. Yeah, the tonality, yeah, that's right, or yeah, that's right. Two completely different meanings, while the words are actually similar, and the body language. But when it comes to conversations, I guess from baby boomers to what generation do we have now? It's been millennials, it's been Y, Z, whatever generation we have today. So these guys are conversing in totally different way. And I think that's going to be one of the other hurdles eventually down the line. But you said that there are people who specialize in these things. and hopefully the AI is going to be catching up sooner. Like, you know, to be able to compare how different generations speak. Sometimes I personally find it really difficult sometimes to get a word through, or, you know, to explain something, or sometimes unintentionally you're using words or sentences or ways of speaking or tonality which is not being accepted by the younger generation. As in, like, they might get pissed. They wouldn't show this to you, but or they would react something like, yeah, whatever that means. You know, like they don't get it, and we don't get them.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange that I'm saying this, but anyway, yeah. So,
And
yeah,
it's so important for connection. So I have a teenage daughter. You know, I get privy to some of these new words and what's coming out on the internet, and you know, you can't avoid it sometimes. But the empathy that comes out of that, connecting with people and understanding them, that's important. That's important for brands to reach their customers. You know, you can't be a Generation X or a boomer trying to connect with these different generations and younger generations and not speak their language effectively, not speak what they're trying to say and connect. And you're, you know, as a brand trying to connect with them, that's very, you know, disheartening to them. They reject that. And if you're, you know, if that's your brand focus and you realize you're not saying the right things to them, that's going to be detrimental, right?
yeah, absolutely. I guess it's just another language. Yeah, you know, you don't.
I'm reminded often. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just another language. Although it does sound familiar, it's not.
It's very true.
So when it comes to AI, I hear and see here in Dubai, a lot of companies talk about, let's put it this way, they say AI, but in reality, it's algorithms. What is the difference for the audience? What is the difference between AI and algorithms? Like, can you please break it down?
So AI is certainly a marketing term and not much more than that. I mean, artificial intelligence has become this umbrella term for everything cool and new in technology, because every business is 10K, you know, every CTO and business leader has to put how they're marching towards AI in one way or the other. So it's certainly a marketing term that's means everything to everybody, it feels like at this point here. But it's certainly, you know, what we're seeing in the spotlight now are the large language models and the neural networks being able to consume huge amounts of human knowledge and then make, you know, what seems understanding out of all that to relate to you and to help you with things when, you know, from the creative side to writing copy to making images to all the different things it could do. But it's all evolutions of machine learning and algorithms and computational math at the end of the day, and the advances that we've had with bringing the technology and the math and the more powerful computing to these new and exciting programs. So I would say that AI is certainly the hype and buzzword, but they're all built from these various disciplines of algorithms and machine learning and, you know, neural networks, LLMs, large language models, small language models, edge computing. So it's an evolution of all these things. I don't think it means one thing in particular.
JD, there is this tool. I downloaded it on my laptop recently. It's called LM Studio. Just want to talk about the dangers of AI. It's a bit more of a topic related to the ethical side of application of AI and so on. Not necessarily a corporate AI topic, but from what I understood, there are like hundreds of different LLM models. Mm-hmm. And you can pretty much download, and some of them don't weigh much, like a couple of gigs of data. Some of them are huge, but you know, you can ask so many things that these LLM models would be able to respond to you, whether ethical or not. And that is something that's prohibited completely, for example, in OpenAI's ChatGPT, or in any Google AI, for instance. There are types of questions that are not allowed. And it seems like whether it's crowdsourced or there are like different people who are utilizing their knowledge to create their own large language models and AI based on that, how do you think this is going to impact? Because, the crowd primarily knows about OpenAI and ChatGPT. They know about Google's AI. I can't even reproduce the name of Google's AI. What was it?
Gemini.
Gemini, thank you. They used to have a different name. Now they changed.
Bard, Gemini.
Yeah, recently, Bard. I've compared both, by the way, and I tried to do the different use cases. It never worked for me. I still go back to ChatGPT. Now, I think those models are equally as progressive as they're dangerous, because if someone wants to find ways to, I don't know even be talking about it, to be honest, during the episode, but there are lots of harm that one can do using the knowledge that can bring harm to other people. What do you think about that? Do you think it has to be regulated somehow? Is it piracy on AI? Is it what? Because dangerous knowledge, while being widely available in the era of internet, this kind of knowledge becomes very, very specific. Then you can put together a nuclear bomb probably, and if should you have the means to do so. And I do have worries. While we do see some progress on the medical side, for example, with the recent news, we know that there is a scientific engine behind the ChatGPT that was launched recently as well.
Sure.
Simultaneously, there are publicly available AIs that can be downloaded to your phone, for example, won't take much space, but it does carry a lot of dangerous knowledge. What do you think about that?
It's certainly a lot to unpack there and a lot to even understand. When we look at ChatGPT is a user interface for a large language model. So they're actually two separate things, and ChatGPT was a commercial success because they put a great interface on this large language model and they gave it something that the public could understand and use very easily. So it's been an explosion with that, and everyone else has followed by putting their own wrapper on that. So it's interesting because the models are ignorant to some of that, and they have something in that interface called fine tuning. And that fine tuning is, it's there to prevent bias, to prevent, terrible things from being said, to prevent information unintended, like how to build a nuclear bomb, from getting out, or how to do other harmful things. But that's in the hand of, OpenAI. That's in the hands of Google. When you look at these global corporations and the responsibility that they have, governments can't keep up with this. Governments are completely reactive and on their heels with even understanding this technology. We have senior members of society who barely understand what some of this technology is that are leading our governments there. They have no idea. So it's left in the hands of the Googles and the OpenAIs to, use their capitalist, endeavors to throttle it and have a product that's not saying racist or hateful things out there, because no one would buy their product if they would. So it certainly concerns me that it's left in the hands of large corporations to lead our morality effectively, right? So we're looking at this and saying, when you know a little bit and you're behind the kimono a little bit working with this technology, you realize the power that OpenAI influences the entire world with what it puts out there. I had an opportunity to speak to a military academy, a prestigious military academy in the States not too long ago. And I was interested to see there were young high school students that were, I came to speak about AI and some of the implications. And to me, it's like a calculator. It's a tool. I mean, do I understand math? Do I understand algebra and geometry? I understand it. And I use a calculator to do the simple deductions, to do the pieces that I can do long form division. But it's long form, right? It takes time. Where a calculator, I can put it in, and then, the scientific as well. I mean, but you have to understand the concepts. You have to have the critical thinking and understand how to pull a cosine out of a triangle. You need to know the formula and how it works. The calculator is just a tool. And I was trying to express that to these children and to the world that, you need to formulate the questions and have an understanding of that to get the great responses out of AI. I mean, I think we've all put silly questions in and got silly things out, but we've taken time to put more, more thorough prompting and get great results out of it. But you have to still have the critical thinking. So I don't think that's changing. It's just going to be a different tool. I think that's an important part. A lot of that fear out there. But I'll bring that back. I thought children were going to be more enthusiastic. I see a lot of that resistance in the marketplace with the older generations, us that have been in work for decades at this point, fearful that it's going to replace our jobs, that it's going to take things away, that it's going to mislead people. So there's a lot of fear that people that are in the industry and can see a dead end for their job because it's something easily automatable. It's, like the factory worker who just pulled a lever on a stamp and they replaced it by a simple robot in a factory. That's where some people see their jobs at, that they're dead ended. But I thought the children would be much more excited about the AI and what it's going to do, but they shared that fear. There's a palatable fear out there, and that was a little shocking to me to see these children saying, "What are we going to do? The job I wanted to do, we wanted to do development and coding work here, but ChatGPT can do code in seconds. What it would take us weeks to do." So there was a palatable fear in the younger generation saying, what are we going to do? We look at the world as growing exponentially now, 8 billion of us and going on 9 here in just a few more years. And everyone's going, well, if AI comes along, what are we going to do? So it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting time. But I think used properly as a tool, it's going to be ultimately beneficial for us to better interact with each other.
People used to use shovels to dig, right? Today we're using a lot of different tools. But someone has to drive, someone has to hold, someone has to switch those tools on and off. And I believe nothing is going to majorly change in that regard. Yes, there is going to be a shift in the types of skills that are going to be required in the market, but eventually this is going to be taken care of. And if the job of the future is going to be simplified to a point when the best people would be the people who do not necessarily know what's going on in their role because it's been taken care of by AI, but really do know how to interact with AI, which questions to ask, how to ask those questions, to take the best out of that engine. Well, so be it. It's like I keep saying this over and over again. Yes, those technical things, a lot of technical skill sets are going to be substituted, but the creative side, the behavioral, the understanding of the human side, the soft skills will become more and more important. These are the things that, and even the arts, people keep saying that because AI can do art, but AI is not going to be substituting the unique art category. It's not going to be substituting the Da Vinci's of the future. It's going to be substituting those cheap agencies, who are not able to come up with decent work. And do we really need them? Maybe these people can find an application of their skills somewhere else in a much better way. So there is going to be a bit of a cleanup as well. But we'll see how it turns out to be. Yeah, it's hard to predict, but there are different ways to look at it. Lastly, I just wanted to, again, just let you have a few minutes of, trying to explain, like, where does your project start when you engage with companies, for example? Does it necessarily have to be costly for small and medium enterprises? And when it comes to the engagement with larger corporations, what is the scale of the projects you can take on? And if you were to express in a sentence, what do you help companies do without actually putting AI in, right? Is it more about efficacy and efficiency? Is it about improving the bottom line? Is it about improving the top line? Is it about both, maybe? transforming for the sake of what? I would love to understand your point of view on this.
Yeah. So the first question is probably the biggest problem we run into day in and day out is when we meet with a potential customer and talk about the possibilities, they're so broad. It can solve so many different business issues that it becomes a prospect of boiling the ocean. They get just so overwhelmed by the different things, and there's so many priorities. And then they want to solve the world's problem, and the budget goes through the roof, and the problems and use cases and the value they're going to provide, it grinds it to a halt and stops the entire process. We've worked hard to go with a toehold, go with a small use case that's very effective, that provides immediate return and is very clear. And year over year, I mean, the technology hasn't been out there very long, but year over year, we're seeing it grow on a hockey stick curve. Once we get something in to a customer and we show a valid use case, it's very quick time to cash back for them. And it's very clear. We can lay out if we do something as small as asking a customer their name and their account number, doing the authentication part of it that every call has, that's 8, 12, 15% of every call for a customer service call is just that simple piece that is very easily handled by a robot. It's not something that is complex or people are against sharing that information with. They're very open to that, just to getting that out of the way. And obviously the terrible use case is when the agent gets on the line and asks those same questions. You never want to do that. But it's certainly doing a small use case, proving out the value. And for us, we like to move out of the way at that point. We consult and get the first use cases started, but turning over quality tools that have great orchestration and interfaces for them to build and experiment. They take off on their own. It's we start with something simple in customer service, and then it's accounting answering changes of address, and then it's some other part, HR answering days off questions or PTO questions. It just grows within the organization quite quickly and successfully as people on their own develop these use cases. Like, well, why can't we just get it to do this? So yeah, it's been for us to start very small, very prescriptive, and say, here's a great starting point.
And like a little pilot.
Yeah, a pilot to prove it out, to show that this is easily obtainable, the ROI is real, and the technology really works. I think, as I said, we're behind the ball because we had so many bad implementations during the pandemic. They rushed technology out and they didn't do proper customer experience discovery to understand what a good journey flow would look like and understand what a great experience would look like. People were, I'm just going to answer the phone and sort it out from there. So yeah, starting small has been very much our mantra to get it out there. And I think it's applicable for all size businesses. There's with the consumption of the cloud, you don't need a ton of infrastructure or anything out there. There's products out there that are very small where we can start with just a handful of agents. And as you mentioned earlier, it gives small organizations the ability to compete with larger ones because they can use these technologies to have more reach and to be more available. A lot of times the larger organizations are much less flexible, so they seem less available because they want to be open from 8 till 5. And what happens after 5? They get a closed message, call back in tomorrow. Where these small, more dynamic organizations are using the chatbots to say, hey, we're closed right now, but we can talk about these things and we can move that into a sale. I've worked with several projects where they were taking and generating leads after hours, where somebody would call into a realtor and, it would have went to voicemail. It would have been picked up the next day by a group of people. And, the lag in that business process from somebody calling in after hours, leaving a message, they had like an 80% chance of getting called back. And then there was a day or two even for somebody to call in. But, in that market, time is of the essence. We have to move very quickly on those type of things. So we did nothing more with the AI, but answer the call and move that into their CRM as a warm lead. And let me tell you, a salesperson was much happier to see a warm lead transcribed and put into their CRM versus a voicemail they had to answer and find out if it was just somebody kicking the tires or wasting time or whatnot. So the possibilities are very real to, punch above your weight by using some of these technologies. So the adoption part, starting small, just super important. The scope of these products, are very small, but there are people using them at grand scales now that are, answering millions of calls in a month, and solving real business problems.
24/7
Yeah,
practically.
24/7, and getting great information. So I think there's a lot of power in that. And yeah, one piece that, I'll mention is, looking at your journey mapping. I think those are important parts. What we're looking to solve with AI is pull out the repetitive work for the humans in your organization. Hand that off to a robot that could do it, just like in a factory. I mean, somebody pulling a lever could easily be replaced by a robot. And a smart person can do much better processes. Same with the AI aspect, is like, look for these repetitive pieces in your journey mapping and your business process discovery. It just lean really heavily on that to understand where the nonsensical pieces are, and come up with a plan to automate that. One piece that I would like to add or to bring to it, about Raizor and what we're doing and why we think why we do focus on the customer experience side. The first is voice, and the aspect of voice is very important to us. We've not only reached out and partnered with the best in that space with understanding voice, and the best conversational designers in the industry are the consultants we work with and work through, as well as understanding the languages we're working in. So here, working in the Middle East, we work with some of the very best in Arabic with understanding that. There's a lot of tools out there, and understanding when somebody goes into Google and tries to have a conversation with their Arabic, the word error rate it can be bad. And people have that experience when trying to use bots and say, oh, we'll never understand Arabic. We've partnered with Intella, who's a leader here in the Arabic ASR marketplace. And it's a game changer when they understand the difference between the formal and written Arabic versus the conversational, as well as all the regional dialects. Intella is here in the region. They understand that. And our outcomes with automation are much more successful when we work with ASR platforms that are very in tune with the dialects out there. So that's a really big piece. And I'd like to close on that. And as I said, the CEO of Samba Nova, Rodrigo, said, if you have business data, you're going to want to put that into your own model. You're going to want to have your own model, and you're going to want to have a private model. You're not going to want to share your intrinsic and special business knowledge with the marketplace by putting it into a general model or working with the general model. You're going to want to have sovereign data that you control, and you're going to want to have access to that only for your organization and keep that within your walls and privacy. So I think organizations are going to move towards having their own private models, not using the chat GPTs
A digital
out there.
twin, sort of, right?
For the company,
Yeah.
for the company's BI and the business knowledge that becomes so much more accessible when you have your own model, when you have something that knows everything about the company, like an Oracle that knows everything within the organization that's happened in the past umpteen years. You have access at your fingertips that the entire employee base can get access to. What happened here? What should we do for this? What have we done here in the past? Having that knowledge, from the person who started just yesterday to the most seasoned professional within your organization, is going to be a game changer.
Great. That was really, really insightful. You mentioned Oracle. I wonder if that was the idea when Oracle was born. But yeah, they did a bit too early. You're right, and the topic of digital twins is trending today.
Yeah.
People, companies set up initiatives, departments that replicate what the company does, physical or digital or hybrid, in a digital space to understand and diagnose issues, for example, or improve on certain aspects. Even if it's not an issue, there's always a way to enhance things. Thank you so much, JD, for coming over. It was a very interesting, insightful podcast. I really hope that you and Raizor AI can change the landscape of the industry, because working with voice is quite difficult. Understanding, and it has been difficult ever since it's not even called Systemas anymore. It was like 10, 12 years ago when the first social listening tools evolved. And up to date, it's still an issue.
Yeah.
And knowing that there are ways that there are certain tools that have helped overcome the understanding of languages, dialects, ways of speaking, and so on is amazing. Good luck, and thanks for coming over.
Thanks for having me, Aslan.
It was episode 2 of The Naked Customer. Today we've been talking to JD Ackley, CEO of Raizor AI. Thanks, JD, for coming over. It was a very insightful podcast today with you. Look up for new podcasts that are coming soon. Please subscribe and follow us. Bye.